Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The province of Ontario is launching an investigation into an incident that took place on Anoogaming First Nation on Thursday. Chief Jeffrey Copenes tweeted out, "Today, a young First Nations man died in Anoogaming. 911 was called. The ambulance parked at the edge of our reserve and wouldn't come help. As his family provided chest compressions, the paramedics let this young man die. This is racism." The chief says the man was in his 30s but did not identify him. He also said this isn't the first issue with paramedics that the community has had. Kenora District Services Board has apologized for the incident and will visit Anoogaming on Monday. You can find more on that story on our website, aptnnews.ca. The Saskatchewan Health Region has confirmed that 3 patients remain in the hospital from the Weldon and James Smith Cree Nation mass stabbings. 14 patients have been discharged up until now. Miles Sanderson was the prime suspect after 10 people were stabbed to death and 17 were injured. He was arrested on September 7th and died shortly after while in police custody. In Ottawa, Health and Safety Minister Marco Mendicino was asked why Sanderson was released from custody and put on parole. He says an independent investigation is underway and Sanderson's parole decision will be looked into.
The Correctional Services of Canada are conducting a joint inquiry into the circumstances surrounding that decision. Look, I know that there will be a lot of questions about our parole system. I think that is entirely appropriate. And it is important that we reflect on how that system works. And as I said, we're going to continue to look at the laws, the policies, and the resources that are necessary to make sure that we keep our community safe.
Miles Sanderson was the prime suspect after apologies for that. To our next story, Winnipeg police are looking for assistance with identifying a young man who died about a month ago. He was found without identification and is not known to police, and so they have been unable to notify his family. Tamara Pimentel has more.
He is in his late teens or early 20s. And he was found on August 5th when paramedics responded to a well-being call at a McDonald's in the North End. When they arrived, he was unresponsive, so they took him to hospital in critical condition. In a press conference Thursday, Constable Jay Murray confirmed he died 2 days after being found.
By the time officers and WFPS arrived, and I believe it was just minutes later, he was unresponsive. So our officers did not have a chance to communicate with this male prior to his passing.
When found, he had no personal belongings except for the black pants and size 11 Nike Air Jordans he was wearing. Murray said detectives tried to identify him through missing persons reports and fingerprints, but he was not known to police anywhere. On September 6, police released these security camera images. They withheld announcing his death in hopes of notifying his family first.
Being able to tell his loved ones what happened to him, he's probably missed in some fashion. So it's important to us to have them notified. There's also the reality is that the medical examiner's office has somebody who's unidentified, essentially a John Doe. There is a point where that person will likely have to be buried. That point is coming up in the near future.
The man's death is not believed to be the result of foul play. Constable Murray says there is a possibility he may have been homeless or visiting from outside Winnipeg. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Hydro-Quebec has operated on the ancestral lands of the Innu First Nation of Pessamit for over 70 years. Negotiations and court hearings are still underway to address the financial and territorial damages of the past. And despite promises to continue working together, Pessamit says at least 2 other infrastructure projects are moving into final stages despite their refusal. Here's Shushan Bacon with part 3 of her series, translated and voiced by Lindsay Richardson.
Que je vais demander à Hydro-Québec de regarder la possibilité de construire des nouveaux barrages au Québec.
And so it's said. Premier François Legault, if re-elected this fall, will be looking into the possibility of adding more dams to Quebec's hydroelectric network. He says the current demand is putting strain on the hydro system.
Mais c'est pas assez. C'est pas assez. Il va falloir aller beaucoup plus loin que ça.
But despite the promises of future collaboration and sharing of profits, Innu elders know best. There's always a risk payout won't come. With the talk of new dams coming up on the election trail, the Innu of Pessamit are again asserting their right to consultation and collaboration with Hydro-Quebec. 13 hydro dams stand today on the ancestral Innu territory known as the Nitassinan. It's deforestation, forever changing the Innu way of life. They're pushing for hundreds of millions of dollars of compensation for past damages. But as the head of Hydro-Quebec explains, infrastructure needs to be built close to the areas needing electricity. Innu communities included.
Alors l'électricité, comme vous savez, ça voyage en temps réel, ça, puis il faut acheminer l'électricité des points de production vers les centres de consommation.
Brochu admits there's still work to be done regarding Indigenous partnership, but the Innu say in 2022 there are 2 projects moving into final phases despite their refusal. For example, Hydro-Quebec wants to raise water limits at the Manicouagan Reservoir to help meet growing demand. But a research center jointly owned by Pessamit Council and UNESCO is set to be destroyed in the process. Pessamit's newly elected chief is hoping the court will grant a temporary injunction order.
Il nous avait proposé 1 million quand tu parles de bail. Mais non, on a refusé parce qu'il y aurait le rehaussement, là. C'est comme une cession de droit aussi là-dedans, là.
Vachon campaigned in favor of protecting Innu territory from hydro development. She was on council back in 2018 when Hydro-Quebec and Pessamit signed a development agreement regarding, in part, construction of the high-tension Miquois-Saguenay line. Adélard Benjamin, coordinator of territorial resources for Pessamit, says the general population never approved of the project.
Les gens se sont montrés très perplexes. Ils ont cette peur, cette crainte-là de se faire flouer encore par cette société qui est Hydro-Québec.
Hydro defends development of the Miquois-Saguenay line because they reportedly had band council approval. Vachon says only a fraction of Hydro's promised $100 million compensation ever came through.
Il nous a carrément dit, malgré le refus, moi je dois tenir les travaux. Il devait les tenir. C'est ce qu'il disait. C'est ce qu'il disait. C'est pour ça qu'il nous a fait faire 15-16 millions pour des travaux pour les projets. Le projet ceci pour les Autochtones.
While Quebec is looking at ways to do more for electricity consumers, the community wonders whether corporations can reconcile environment and economy. Hydro says,
Ultimement, ce qu'on cherche à faire au Québec, présentement, puis vous m'avez entendu là-dessus, là, on n'a aucun projet de nouveau barrage à court et à moyen terme. On n'est pas là-dedans.
But that declaration was made before the incumbent premier went on the record expressing interest in more construction. So the question remains, will Innu consultation and consent be a factor in future dams? Pessamit members hope so.
A
story by Shushan Bacon, APTN National News, Pessamit, Quebec.
Still to come, Cindy Blackstock says children who have been discriminated against by the child welfare system are now getting shortchanged in a landmark settlement. Stick around. Welcome back. The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal wrapped up hearings today on how victims of the First Nations child welfare system will be compensated. In 2016, the tribunal announced that each child and some caregivers should receive $40,000 each. But Canada had another plan to compensate those children. Cindy Blackstock is the executive director of the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society. Her organization is trying to stop a plan by Canada and the Assembly of First Nations to change the compensation order. She joins us now from Ottawa. Cindy, great to see you as always. Can you tell us a bit about what you didn't like, I guess, with the plan that Canada and the Assembly of First Nations had come up with?
Well, you'll remember, Dennis, that the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal awarded $40,000 to the children and their parents and grandparents who were discriminated against Canada in ways that separated their families, hurt some kids, and also sadly led to the deaths of some children. Now, when the government of Canada said they wanted to do this class action, they said they wanted to do it because they'll give more than $40,000 to these kids. And I thought, great, that's great. But when we read the final fine print in the final settlement agreement, it turned out that some children and families will get more. But sadly, a large number of children and families will either get nothing, or they will get a substantially reduced amount, or their entitlements are very unclear. And for those reasons, we really felt we needed to speak up for those who are being left behind in this agreement.
Cindy, can you tell us a bit about who may be or is being left out of the class action that would have been entitled to the $40,000 under the CHRT?
Sure. So first of all, the estates of parents who had passed away. So these would be parents, for example, even like Jordan's mom, Virginia Ballantyne. She wouldn't be eligible for compensation under the final settlement agreement. So that's one group. And that's so important to us, Dennis, because those monies for parents, that would have gone to their children, most likely. Mm-hmm. And that would have been a benefit to them. The second group are children who are moved from their families during a child welfare involvement because of the lack of prevention services funded by the government, but that they went into a non-government funded placement. Maybe they stayed with a family, a friend of a family or something like this. The government is saying, because of your placement type, we're not going to include you in the $40,000. And to give you some sense, when we look at the different types of placements kids are in child welfare, this is a very frequent type of placement. Families make arrangements on their own. Those people get nothing. And under the reduction category, we have the parents of Jordan's principal. So those folks will get about $20,000 as far as we can tell. And then for other Jordan's principal children and entitlements, we don't know because the criteria aren't clear.
Cindy, what do you want to see happen with this hearing?
We want to see that these children and these families, they're put back in there. They have a legal right for the $40,000 in compensation for the harms that they experience. Canada should pay that amount to them. And then do as the ministers had promised, give some people more. It's about fixing this and making sure that no one's left behind.
Cindy, just lastly here, what's the message you want all victims of Canada's discrimination to hear?
I want you to know that we are here to fight for you, that we recognize that what you went through was life-changing in the worst possible way, and that we will hold Canada's feet to the fire to compensate you and to treat you with justice going forward, and we won't leave anyone behind.
Well, Cindy, I remember the day the announcement was made. You said the devil was in the details, and here we are. So appreciate your work again and taking some time for us here today.
Thank you very much, Dennis.
In the wake of the tragedy at James Smith Cree Nation earlier this month, one woman is hoping to provide healing through the power of sacred medicine. Sav Jonesa has more on this story.
Marcy Sinclair is no stranger to the power of sweetgrass.
There's 21 strands, so one strand won't be strong by itself. But with 21 strands, you know, it's almost unbreakable.
This sweetgrass teaching can help strengthen communities, like James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. That's where residents are grieving after 10 people were stabbed to death and another 18 injured.
Her husband is accused of killing my sister. Our family is here to forgive.
Our reserve is close-knit, and they were close-knit.
For Sinclair, the incident hit home. Though she is from Fisher River Cree Nation in Manitoba, she once sought healing from the James Smith residents. Now she hopes to return the favor.
There's many people we met, either directly or indirectly, but everyone was so beautiful and caring from James Smith.
Sinclair came to the community to fight her addictions. She says alcohol affected her relationship with her daughters, and the people of James Smith made all of the difference.
I was sober, from attending Saskatchewan Lodge and the support of the James Smith community members.
Forever grateful for the cultural teachings they bestowed on her, Sinclair has decided to send care packages of traditional medicines she's harvesting.
There's a lot of ceremony people there. And with every ceremony, you need smudge, you need medicine to make other medicines, to use with other medicines. So I just felt in my heart that I had to send medicines and traditional items to them.
The sweetgrass in this field is among some of the sacred medicines they will receive.
The sweetgrass for ceremony could be used to smudge an area, to bring that gentleness and to cleanse the area.
Sinclair hopes that through ceremony, the community will find the same healing in each other that they offered to her family.
Keep the ceremonies going, especially for the ones that lost the loved ones, because that spirituality is very important, especially when someone passes. It's going to take a long time to feel better, but to have the memories of their lost ones in their hearts.
Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Fisher River Cree Nation.
Time to step aside for a quick break. Still to come, we'll give you a peek at a new exhibit at the National Gallery. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now to take a peek at our photo of the day. Pictured here is Angel, and she's enjoying her opportunity to play in the Elbow River, located near Calgary, Alberta. Thanks to our Edmonton video journalist Chris Stewart for submitting the photo. We want to see your pictures, and you can send them to us by email to share@aptn.ca. Let's take a look at your Saturday weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and 19 for Halifax, 18 in Fredericton. 7 with showers in Kuujjuaq, 11 and rain in Nain. 20 in Montreal, 13 with showers in Val-d'Or. 23 and rain in Sault Ste. Marie, showers in 22 in North Bay. Rain and 21 in Thunder Bay, showers in 18 in Sioux Lookout. 16 with showers for God's Lake, 13 and rain in Norway House. 17 with showers for Winnipeg, Gimli and Dauphin. 20 in Regina, 22 for Saskatoon. 22 in Meadow Lake, 19 in La Ronge and Stony Rapids. Over in northern Alberta, 18 with showers for High Level and Fort Chip. 13 with rain in Edmonton, sun's out, and 21 in Lethbridge. 16 for Vancouver and Victoria. Showers and 14 in Prince George. Sunny day and 13 in Smithers. Rain and 14 in Old Crow. A sunny high of 16 for Whitehorse. Sunny and 15 in Yellowknife. 18 in Norman Wells. Plus 1 in Sax Harbor. 7 for Pawlatuck. Rain 10 in Whale Cove. 13 in Arviette. -2 in Resolute. Snow and +3 in Arctic Bay. Movement is the focus of an exhibition at the National Gallery in Ottawa. The international works include collections from Indigenous artists. Annette Francis takes us there.
The new exhibition allows viewers to experience the collections of video, photography, European, Indigenous, and contemporary art through movement.
I think movement could be expressed in different ways, whether it's dance, and even dance itself has its own roots in different things. Ballet has its roots in the courts of France, and in the indigenous world, dances originate from more celebratory or ceremonial functions.
There are 9 pieces by Indigenous artists, says curator Wassondale Cross, and they hail from Siberia to Canada and Alaska.
It just really shows you know, that the gallery is helping to put Indigenous art on par with, you know, other great works of art, and to give people a chance to be able to see the diversity across Indigenous cultures and artistic practices as well.
One photography collection by artist Catherine Takpani is called Our Women and Girls Are Sacred.
And her works often explore the use of her own body or the body of her friends situated in landscape. And through her work, she really explores activism and giving a voice to, you know, underrepresented people.
Daphne Ojic is represented here. And this interesting piece called Performance Bonnet is by artist Brian Youngin, and it's constructed out of Nike Air Jordan sneakers.
So those types of bonnets were typically like a stereotype of, you know, a stereotype symbol of Indigenous people, but they were often one of the only pieces of regalia, if you will, that people were allowed to wear during a cultural ban, which lasted in Canada until 1951. So there's a lot of loaded history there.
The exhibition will be on display until February 2023. Anna Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
To Winnipeg's North End now, where a new child care facility opened its doors to the media today to showcase what it has to offer children. Music and jigging helped kick off the community celebration. Little Stars Playhouse is a partnership with many different groups in Manitoba, including the Manitoba Métis Federation. The MMF donated $750,000 to the project to match the federal government's contributions. The Playhouse is designed to meet the mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional needs of newborns to 5-year-olds, with the hope more services can be offered in the future.
We have this opportunity so that the kids get the best start in their lives, you know, and also we could find it's not just going to be a child care. I think it's going to eventually be a family center, you know, and we could see that if we could enhance it, you know, and make sure that the families are really a part of it, you know, the neighborhood is a part of it, and bring in different like drummers and dancers and artists so that the kids get a rich experience in their early years.
Sounds pretty great. Well, that's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Friday. For news anytime and more on anything you've seen here, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for APTN National News Weekend. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.